Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Repackaging Revolution. I'm your host, David Marinak. Before I introduce our guest today, let me start with what we call a Marinak musing. You, packaging reseller, have a chance to change the world. So do something with that opportunity. Now, the reason why I share that is I truly believe packaging resellers have the ability to change the world. And I know it sounds goofy. I know it sounds Pollyannish, but really what's happened over the last 25 years is there's been a lot of milk route sales guys, certainly not my guest today, but there's been a lot of milk route salespeople that have sold on commodities, sold on cheapest price, sold on whatever's available. And frankly, post-COVID, now we have this opportunity finally where customers are beginning to really rely on packaging resellers for different products, different styles and materials, different structures, not just one size fits all, not just commodity items. And it's such a good opportunity to kind of share and dig into different types of materials, different types of trends that are happening in the packaging space with not only a friend of mine, but somebody I'd really admire. AJ is with Origin Packaging. AJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave. You've really been a great partner to Origin Packaging in our global attempt to bring rigid, flexible, paper-based solutions to our clients. You're definitely an industry expert. I love the idea and your passion behind sustainability, innovative spout closures, and being able to approach many different markets with a lot of examples, pictures of solutions you've done. It's amazing, your portfolio, and definitely an industry expert and a valued partner to us. So I'd like to thank you for that.
Yeah, and thanks. And I appreciate that and the kind words. But the other thing, too, and I mean this sincerely, is one of the reasons that you and I were connected is that you do it the right way, AJ. Origin and the way you guys approach business is not about let's go race anybody to the bottom. Let's go cheap, 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 cheap. You are looking for solutions. You're looking for opportunities. That doesn't mean pricing doesn't matter. That doesn't mean profit doesn't matter. What I'm getting at is you guys do it the right way where you're looking to solve somebody's pain point. You're looking to find out what's going on and why. And without that, frankly, we're just, if we don't focus that like you guys do, then it's just commodity guys. They're just selling on commodity stuff, and that just doesn't work. So you and I connected from the very beginning, and I truly believe there's such an opportunity for companies like Origin, for guys like you, AJ, and me, to really go out there and change the next 20, 25 years of this industry. And I'm just all about, yes, there's a passion behind it, but I'm also about educating customers, potential customers, the business leaders that are out there that, this nonsense of thinking about packaging at the last minute just doesn't work. You know what I mean? And we've all been there where somebody calls, and it's amazing to me how many companies, big and small, AJ, think about packaging at the last minute and they wonder why their product failed on Target store shelves, or they wonder why it never sold at all. And here they'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on ingredients and components and everything else, but they'll throw in the packaging at the last minute and the product will go bad, or the product will be stale, or it doesn't have the quality that it's intended. And that just drives me crazy. And it's frankly really unfortunate. But you know what? Between you, your team, me, let's change this in the next 20, 25 years. Let's keep going with that. Sounds good?
Sounds good. And what attracted me from, my experience in dispensing and rigid packaging to flexibles was, there was a lot of white papers and industry studies and focus groups that, about 1 in 4 customers in my existing database had flexible needs. And, my approach is not in the past, sometimes we can be a product peddler filling a need in the quick, stock or fire sale opportunity. We like to, anticipate customers' needs, ask the questions, understand their branding, and try to be a sustainable resource and offer, if their brand stands for sustainability, it's hard to have that conversation if they're just in the now business because one, a rigid package is only so sustainable, usually too much gram weight to get the job done. A flexible aspect, you can have many different options, including all the innovative spouts that you have access to and the fast lead times, print plates, and aspects to get the job done well. But if you don't know the core branding, it's hard to have the sustainability conversation with the clients because you're talking about a 3 time to 4 time multiplier. And the
Yeah.
substrates we're using are very interesting. I know some German-based companies are doing some stuff with food starch and bubble wrap, and one of the latest trends are compostable with a little barrier, still ASTM certified, and soft touch aspects. So we're trying to capitalize on these trends. We think personal care may want that. I think there's a lot more to come with regards to industrial and automotive, and maybe some innovation spouts. I'm trying to uncover where there's existing spouts or using cost-effective innovation molds, maybe from overseas, to bring innovations to the table. But one of the differentiating factors of ABC as a partner was showing me how easy it was to incorporate rudimentary dispensing closures like 20410 or 28400 in order to put a trigger or a lotion pump on there. I just think that you understand, with your wide verse of many different market segments and different products, the good approach. When I put you in front of the customers, you bring immense value. And I look forward to getting those long-term partners and doing our value add service with either our 3PLs that we offer or headquarters warehousing. And I know that you have such aspects throughout the U.S., including some good ones on the West Coast.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that, dude. And I mean this, and it's so. Thank you for saying all your kind words. But I want to hear more about AJ. I want to know what got you into this space. Our listeners want to learn about Origin. So tell us first about AJ, how you got to Origin, kind of what Origin does. Yes, I know you talked a little bit about the rigid and some things, and you're changing a few things, but I really want to focus on that. And then we're going to dig into, just as a highlight, some of the hottest trends, packaging trends and styles, not just for 2023, but carrying over into 2024. So fill our listeners in, if you will, on AJ and kind of how you got into this space.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, Origin is a spin-off of a large cannabis compliance company where we had some patented molds focusing on sustainable and child resistant technologies, as well as metered dose. We do offer, CRC compliance packaging for exit bags, cannabis bags to put flour in, usually with barrier and laminate and foil, because moisture barrier is very important. We have pushed the envelope with regards to spiral round containers and having innovative differentiating CR technologies. We're trying to focus heavily on the pet and vet market and pet treats. We think there's a great upside potential there, as well as a sustainability mindset with the right customers. The way to bring rigid packaging and e-commerce solutions to a flexible package, including, the trigger market, the lotion pump, or even serum market. We see a lot of mascaras and other high-end solutions going to flexible just to, for lower weight and compatibility. But, you and I both know sustainability doesn't matter unless the product becomes to the end user in pristine condition. So, we try to look at
Yeah.
all the aspects of it. We try to do a turnkey aspect. So we could take a garage brand or a Fortune 500
Yeah.
brand and anticipate
Yeah.
their needs and be ready for it. So where we can't be in the now business, we try to understand their projections and what their branding stands for and bring some differentiating packaging. And once you get into the flexible space from rigid, usually the opportunity for decoration SKUs can be very innovative. You can put a spouted pouch on the bottom of it, could be your SKU because nobody really wants to see that. Gives you more opportunity for directions, ingredients, recipes, whatever it may be. So in that regard, with integrated handles as far as large format, you introduced some of the largest format that I've seen with regards to paint and over 2 gallons being able to be housed within a flexible container. So I think that's a market that's somewhat untapped and can be part of the future.
So let me ask you, if you don't mind, let's talk about the cannabis space, that kind of area that you guys that's kind of, I wouldn't say your meat and potatoes, but your bread and butter in a little bit. But Tell us a little bit about it because that's a challenge, at least here in Ohio. I know you're in New Jersey, and every state has different rules, whether it's medical or whether it's recreational or whatever. But are you seeing that industry continuing to explode? Are you guys still, because you've got some very, very cool, innovative things that are out there when it comes to cannabis, when it comes to protecting the product itself. Give me a little bit of a background. Is that something, again, I know you started as an offshoot of a larger company in that regard, but that's a very unique market in that cannabis space. No? Can you fill us in some more?
Sure. Ohio has been a challenging market. I have some folks, trying to call on these new dispensaries. They're either all the way down the road already or ignoring calls and solicitations. But there isn't much difference between medicinal and recreational use when it comes down to the cannabis flower, the derivatives. So whether it's in the flexible space, we typically will do maybe a few grams up to maybe a quarter ounce within a resealable, child resistant, usually with a laminate for that barrier we talked about earlier. I
Right,
could
right.
see, maybe Bovita added or maybe a layer of desiccant within the pouch as far as next generation stuff.
Sure.
So, the exit bags are important because if you're not showing tamper resistance or child resistance on the package, you can at least have that within the exit bag. All these opportunities give a large footprint for decoration. If it's a gusseted pouch, like I said, bottom sides, you get front, back, bottom rather than a front and back or a wrap label. It's much more appropriate. You're not losing anything on the closure. You're lowering the weight as far as e-commerce. We have a consistent model for tincture bottles in that we have a dropper
Mm,
assembly that is child resistant, metered dose with the different gradations on there for 1 ml, half ml, and quarters. Potentially in the future, if we could have a pouch that was rigid enough for that to operate on there, it's a standard 20410 neck finish for glass. That might be
mm.
something where we could take the risk of the glass breaking in an e-commerce style. Also, we're looking at maybe some innovations in injected molded pulp to have a truly compostable pouch option. It's early in the stages, but that's something that our new engineer and we're doing some 3D print models. We do have a 3D printer, graphic design, marketing support, and engineers on staff at Origin Packaging. So we're just coming off the MJ Biz conference in Las Vegas, where we had a quad booth with the halo and a lot of activity there, just following up on the samples and trying to capitalize on the latest trends. We think in the near future, cannabis may lend itself to psychobib mushrooms and maybe
Oh,
using the
yeah.
same type of cannabis compliant packaging for that style,
Sure.
both flexible and rigid. So, it's good for us to be in the now business with some exit bags and some child resistant bags. A lot of pop vials. We decorate the pop vials. We have a buy and a try tube for pre rolls. So the market is ever changing. It was 1 gram pre rolls, then the giant cigar size pre
Yeah.
rolls,
Yeah.
and now there's a new trend called dog walkers, which is like little half pre rolls that go typically within a tin pouch, but certainly could be within a multi chamber pouch solution. But of course, having to be in compliance with the CRC.
So let me ask you a question with that. And I know I bounced around here a little bit. And we've got plenty to talk about, but I'm fascinated with this in the cannabis space for the simple fact that, like you said, AJ, it's an ever changing landscape. It seems like, especially all I know is Ohio, but it seems like as soon as one law comes in, another one changes it, or another law, and there's this constant grab. Does Origin focus a lot on the innovation side of things and doing things specific? Like, for example, are they looking to create their own type of unique package that is, unlike anybody else, or are you basically looking for already your partners that already make that type of cannabis packaging to resell? There's no good or bad. I just was curious to see how you guys go about it, because I know you have an engineer or
Yeah.
engineers there that are pretty innovative.
That's right. And our established there's two type of customers, right? You can't go interstate with your packaging or your cannabis grow. It's a state specific thing. So, Ohio's just getting into it, but we do offer, a lot of design and innovation to the larger companies, like we call them MSOs, multiple state operators. So in that regard, we'll have pre-printed jars so we can put their
Mm,
logos on there, typically coming in from overseas or domestic. But if we get a spray white or a spray black on there, it's easy for us to decorate it consistently for them. We do have our patented design as far as drop lock. You can reference the RxDeco website. Atid, which means future in Hebrew. We're owned by Orthodox Jewish gentlemen, and
oh
they're
wow.
very innovative. They have a spiral round technology which the construction industry has walked away from. So there's a lot of manufacturing platforms. For larger runs, we could do a spiral round container with a paper bottom, and now we're working on bioplastic, child resistant top, and the real secret aspect that I can't disclose too much is injection molded pulp, and hopefully being able to do this friction fit and child resistant aspect. But it's more from, a metal can bottom into a paper can bottom, into bioplastics, into the spring being polyethylene versus a bioplastic that kind of
Mm,
looks like a DNA kind of spiral in order to give it some return.
yep.
So the whole idea is being able to capitalize on an industry that's very sustainable friendly, right? You're going to find that, people only want to use organic fertilizers, and, the way
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go about it, using the most cost effective LEDs, and, having tertiary HVAC stuff. So it's really a complete science with regards to how to approach cannabis, but they never anticipate the challenges and the complexity of packaging, right? So being able to bring something innovative. Some of my recent designs are with regards to cannabis seed, where I do nestable paper-based solutions, which could easily be within a compostable pouch too. I think that that's a good aspect. But audible click is something that folks like. It's whether it's a vacuum cleaner or the way that you take your personal care stuff. Audible click is something everybody recognizes. But the designers that we work for recognize that we shouldn't be targeting, because everybody's heard about a gummy getting into the wrong hands of a grammar school kid or
yeah,
something like that, right? We want to fight that the best that we can. And most of the companies that I work for design the stuff to be a little bit more adult ridden.
yeah.
Like here's something that I recently did, Dirty Bird Seed Company. You can see that that's not targeting
No,
kids,
no, no.
little bit evil
Yeah,
looking,
yeah,
but I think it's appropriate. It's a simple two-color design, but that's the whole idea is how can you get your branding to the marketplace, but still not target children and show compliance with CRC. I think the CRC should maybe go to the next level, being that, maybe tweens would try to access that. I think that there's more complex CR technology to come, and we could push the envelope for that in the near future. I'd like to see that. Not that, our teat is very challenging to open if you've never opened it before. You almost need instruction.
right,
So I think that
right.
one's a little bit more advanced rather than the push down turn, which, if you've ever done any CR compliance, you have to show the kids how to open it too.
Right.
And
True.
after you show them that they open it, you still fail.
Yep.
And they can open it with their teeth and bang it around and do all kinds of things. So yeah, I think it's important that we give good stability and end user goals, making sure we give a fresh product, whether it's delivery of the liquids, the derivatives, the edibles, or the flour. I think it's important that we protect the children from the vapes and everything else that's out there as far as delivery systems. So they really need to up the game as far as protecting the kids and how we target the packaging. It should really scream adult
Yeah,
use
yeah, yeah.
only, and I
Yep.
think that there could be more done in the space to project that.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things you have taught me over the years too, AJ, and I mean this respectfully, there, just like you were saying, there's a lot of things that need to be done for not only protecting the kids, but the other part of this, which I find really, really fascinating, is and it wasn't that long ago that you and I saw this cannabis space. It was a bunch of stoners. It's not that anymore. These are, you talked about the science of growing this material, and you talk about the science of protecting the children, of course, and the packaging. But these are legit businesses and multi-million dollar businesses. And if anybody's ever wants to learn more, AJ's your guy, for the simple fact that there is so much technology behind this. It's fascinating. And just from the time that you and I have known each other, it's gone from those old days of the stoner back car out of the trunk of a car kind of stuff into highly regulated, highly watched over, from each individual state. And it's fascinating how that's all played out. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Origin Packaging has another division called OrTech, where we can provide LED specific
Mm,
solutions. So somebody's starting to grow in New Jersey, about 30,000 square feet. And it's going to cost somewhere around $650,000 for the LED system alone.
wow.
So the one good aspect of that is we're partnered with a plant overseas, and we make all kinds of LED technologies over there. A brand like Philips will partner with a plant and just stamp their name on it. So we go direct to the source, and we can give duty delivery paid pricing with regards to that. And as far as the wattage and the being able to dial it up, a lot of multiple state operators are bragging about their investments in the LED technology, because they think the stronger the lights, the more potent the strains, and the diversity of the strains. So, you're right. I mean, back when it used to be, you didn't have a choice. You wanted to buy some marijuana, you got whatever was there. Now you can decide if you want focused marijuana, you want sleep marijuana, you want,
Yep.
you know, uh,
Pain
um,
medicine.
pain medicine, which is very popular. I'm so proud of the industry that it's gotten people off of addictive opioids. I've
Yep.
worked for, opioid companies. They're not the best companies to work for, and
Yep.
they don't care about anything but profits, it seems. But, I think the marijuana approach to it, as far as the physical aspect, I mean, smoking is bad. We all know
Yep.
this, but, some of the edibles are really saving lives and saving people from family killing
Yeah, and
addictions.
and it's I love doing these, especially these podcasts with friends, because I never quite know where this is going to go. But just bear with me, AJ. You had mentioned a couple of things which I think is really, really important to emphasize on. You talked about especially being partnered directly with factories, whether wherever they're at, overseas, whatever, and whatever the product is. And that's something that a lot of people, a lot of companies, don't understand the factory direct model. B, they fall for the Alibaba nonsense or think that their new friend overseas, whether it's China or Taiwan or Vietnam or whatever. You guys, in global sourcing, that really is a real skill to be able to source directly from a factory and to be able to go and make sure that you're getting the quality, your orders are on time, your orders are done the way that's not that, we've all heard the horror stories of people going overseas. We've all heard that. And suddenly people are, they're stunned that their deposit's gone, or they're stunned that the quality wasn't right. But you guys, that's interesting. And I wanted to really emphasize that, because props to you guys. You do that the right way, and you got to go factory direct. You've got to have people there. That's the only way to source globally. And by the way, this isn't a for or against global sourcing. This is just how to do it right. This is just, what, AJ, you guys would follow the same routine if this factory was in Peoria, Illinois. You'd go and inspect them. You'd go and visit them. You'd make sure that your paperwork follows. You'd make sure that everything matches, because, I mean, that's just good business. And I just wanted to emphasize that before we dig into these trends, that global sourcing is a big deal, and it's not going away.
You're talking about, plants that speak a different language,
Yep.
right? A different currency.
Yep.
Duty delivery paid solutions don't come
No.
easy. And, a lot of people think that they can just circumvent it, go to Alibaba or do an internet search, the China dream.
Yep.
But the China dream turns into the China
Yep.
nightmare. And, you're late, you're out of
Yep.
product, you made commitments to folks, and you're out of stock. And
Yep.
that's no way
Yep.
to be successful in a company. So you
Well,
need
and
a
it's
partner that's experienced. Well,
100%. And I just to that point, and especially when we're talking about the dispensary and cannabis space, sad, and I don't know if you've gone through this, but sad when people have told me the horror stories where a lot of the dispensaries and a lot of these growers or whatever the terminology is, they've hired inexperienced buyers and sourcing people, meaning they don't understand. Look, you guys in origin and global sourcing, we've all learned there's a right way and a wrong way. And like you said, you can't circumvent it and have the, would you call it the China dream or whatever it is? It just doesn't work. And unfortunately, a lot of people, not just in the cannabis space, but in all industries, when you don't hire a seasoned person that understands sourcing, that understands the questions to be able to kind of determine, is this actually a manufacturer? Is this company actually have the quality that we need to make sure that it's done properly? What are the ramifications if they don't deliver on time? What are the, and a lot of times people don't even think about that until their order doesn't show up. And now they're scrambling to try to find these people on WhatsApp or whatever it is. And they realize, holy crap, this is never a manufacturer in the first place.
yeah, if you don't understand FDA regulations and you're selling somebody an ingestible product and, there's no drug master file or DMF and,
Right.
you go with a willy-nilly films producer that, doesn't have much compliance documentation, you're really setting yourself up and your client for failure and lawsuits down the
Yeah.
road. So you really have to have those compliance documents and operational excellence tested, tried and true before you consider using them as a
Yeah.
partner.
Well, friend, let's segue into these trends that we talked about. I know we won't cover all of this stuff, but by the way, for our listeners, AJ was gracious enough to kind of, work with me on putting together these trends that are actually for everybody's benefit. And we have no problem sharing this, but there's a couple of really cool things that are out there that people don't even know exist when it comes to not just the packaging itself, but some of the other things that really tie to sustainability, which I think is a really big buzzword right now. And I'm going to share a document and bring this up. So, long story short, folks, and this is topic number one. We'll probably cover a couple of these, and AJ and I will probably do a recurring segment because he and I could talk for ages. But in this particular case, what I'm trying to show you on your screen, and again, the slide is available, and we'll give a link to it after. But what I wanted to share here, this is what's known as a life cycle analysis, or an LCA. Not product specific where we're showing an actual product, but where this is really important is this. What a lot of times guys like AJ and myself will talk to a company and they'll say, I got to use a glass jar for this particular product. And okay, so why a glass jar, Mr. Customer? Well, because it's recyclable. Okay, that's fine. Recyclable, that's great. But recyclable in what way? And the point I'm getting at is it's not just the glass that you need to figure into when something is recyclable. The life cycle analysis does the big picture, meaning that you have to look at the amount of energy and cost to create that glass, for example, and what's it going to take in order to recycle that. What's it going to take to be able to clean and grind that back down? What's the freight going to cost in order to kind of get that done? And you have to look at and whatever that number is, let's say it's 50 cents. Well, then that it has to compare favorably with whatever your quote unquote more sustainable option is going to be. The sustainability part of this, AJ, and you and I both know is reducing how you've done, currently. Are you reducing your packaging? Are you reducing your costs in your packaging? And oftentimes there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially from the packaging resellers. They don't understand this. And when a customer says to them, I need a more sustainable package, okay, what does that mean? The customers don't understand it. The reason why I wanted to share this, and I'll move on and I'll go into this further down the road, and I thank you for even listening to this, AJ, is you have to look at the life cycle analysis. For example, my glass example. Most people don't understand there is absolutely, here in the Midwest where I'm at in Ohio, there is absolutely zero glass recyclers. Zero in the Midwest. The problem is that the only place that you can recycle glass right now within a day's travel time by truck, I believe it's Washington State. So the people that are in the glass space, sauces, kimchi, sauerkraut, all those other kind of glass pickles, you name it. And it doesn't have to be food products. It can be, anything. The glass sounds great that it's recyclable, but no one's looking at the big picture here of what it would cost, not just to make, but what would it cost full cycle in order to recycle that compared to a different type of packaging. I don't even have to say flexible, but something else that reduces the amount of weight, something that reduces the amount of fuel it costs to ship the stuff, to store it, to ship it, energy to create electricity. There's just a lot of this that I just wanted to at least throw out there. And this is another topic for another day. But if you're a packaging reseller, learn about the value of the life cycle analysis. And we can connect you with people that do that for a living. This is a very, very worthwhile time and energy and money to connect you and your customers with in order to kind of really look at what's that packaging costing you, not just from a financial standpoint, but costing the environment when you want to talk about sustainability. AJ, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I could tell you in visiting many glass plants that you've never seen larger piping of natural gas in order to get the amount of BTUs to keep, 1 million globules of glass in a molten state. It's very hard to do custom colored glass. IO's got some larger micro aspects to it that they can get down to like 1,000 pounds.
Yep.
But, in a glass plant, the walls glow and that thing stays molten. And you've never seen so much natural gas in BTUs unless you're used to that format.
Yeah. And it's just crazy expensive, and it's very, very, again, big picture wise.
And it breaks and it shards. And, for an adjustable product, everything on the line 5 feet before and 5 feet after has to be trashed. Yeah. So there is a shrink factor as far as taking a glass product and putting it potentially in a flexible or a different substrate.
Goodness, the reason why I share, especially with the glass example, because so many of us, myself included, always just assumed that glass was infinitely recyclable. Well, yeah, not really when you look at the cost, and not really, just like you were describing being in a glass factory, how much energy it's burning on a regular basis. And it's just mind blowing to me how, people just are unaware. And my point, as a packaging reseller, it's such a good idea if you have this knowledge behind you in your back pocket. And there are companies that's all they do. So you can, as a packaging reseller, talk authoritatively with your customer and get them to the right package for them. Not just, and oftentimes these customers, AJ, this, where somebody said, well, we got to use glass. Why? I don't know. Have you ever thought of something else? No. Okay. Well, and this is where, when I go back from my original point, AJ, we have a chance as packaging resellers really to change the world, because the next 20 years of this, we've got to get people and companies beyond this. Well, that's the way it's always been. That's not going to work. You have to be able to look at alternatives and be able to get them into alternatives that again, help the environment, help their bottom line, help them, the salespeople make more money, help them attract more customers. There's a way to do this. But if we don't, as packaging resellers, share this information and intel, it's just, with the next 25 years, it's going to be even worse. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to see, us changing the factor of only 8% of recycled plastics re-engaging into the modern packaging solutions. So PCR content at 8%, everybody's wish recycling, throwing it in the recycle bin, thinking that we're really gonna get a hold on it. But we can't even be 10% at this point. It's there's a lot to be done. I think for the most sustainable companies I've worked for, they want to use recycled plastic. They want to lightweight and they want, reduce, reuse, recycle. But consider how much packaging actually goes into you delivering the product in pristine form. That's the real challenge. And using compostable materials that have barrier is another thing that needs to be pushed. I know there's a lot going on with barrier and paper, but ultimately ASTM certification and being able to break down in 3 or 4 months is a real challenge when something needs barrier or shelf life.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of things, and I appreciate you saying this because I think it's really important, especially when it comes to looking at the big picture here as far as the different types of packaging that are available. You had said something about the biodegradable and compostable, and we're in that business too. And this isn't a commercial for us by any stretch. However, like you just said, AJ, you have to be able to look at the customer's product and say, can we deliver that product in the right pristine condition that it needs to end up in? Can it arrive in a way that's going to protect the contents, protect the flavor, protect the, all the other, shelf life, all those things? And if you can't do that, then it's not the right time. Hey, look, we all, yourself, me, we all want to help the environment. But for the love of Pete, you can't just assume because something is quote unquote compostable, biodegradable, that it's just going to disappear. It's not going to just melt away. You have to, and then back to your first point, which ties this right together. In this US country that we both love, the problem we have, if you ask me, is above and beyond. We have a littering problem. And then on top of that, beyond the littering problem, we have a recyclable problem. And that's 2 points. Number one,
Yes.
the littering problem, and this learned, again, this people learn from their parents. I don't care what it is, but people see the older folks. Somebody taught people way before when that it's okay to just throw garbage wherever. And that's nonsense. It drives me crazy when somebody
learn behavior.
It's behavior. 85% of litter is intentional, AJ. That's a fact. And that's just, and then to your next point, when it comes to recycling, that's the other huge opportunity. And one of the things I want to do with this podcast and some of the other communities that we're talking about this is get a politician on here or politicians to understand that we can only recycle so much until there's qualified laws or rules or instructions that we all can follow. AJ, I guarantee you, your town in New Jersey has different recycling rules than my town in Cleveland. And then I go 5 minutes over, and those rules are different than both of us. Meaning, we don't have a real structure to follow. I guarantee you can go to the high priced Beverly Hills, and they've got, they're paying $35 an hour to recycle stuff. But it just, until we have kind of clarified this, until we've actually put something together, and then on top of it incentivized it, then on top of it say, look, here are the rules of what's recyclable, where it goes. Then we want to incentivize John Q. Public. I don't care what it is, but there's got to be something for people to learn. I don't care what it costs, whether it's a nickel or a penny, just like the old glass bottles we had as kids that you could return, at least recycle and make a nickel or whatever it was. But it made people think differently about just throwing it on the side of the road. And, this is learned behavior. We have got to teach our children a better way because this is just, it's not working. Any thoughts?
Well, our engineer is actually, he was from a company that started the Loop program. So they try to use sustainable, re-sterilized solutions. You got a lot of personal care goods, ice cream,
Yep.
other solutions that you use on a monthly basis. I mean, you can consider that for your cereals,
Yep.
reusing your container. A lot of large format grocery stores, including Whole Foods, you don't necessarily have to have, the big cardboard box and
Yep.
the laminate bag
Yep.
within it. And ultimately, if you have a resealable container and you do it appropriately, it's just behavior, right? Not that single-use plastics is being attacked, and the government's going to enforce some things even further than they already are.
Yep.
We know it's going to come down the pipe. So it's about behavior. It's about
Yep.
e-commerce. And it's always about the end user experience. Otherwise, the product gets bad reviews, and depending on how you sold that product, it could affect your company immensely.
Well, you were so right on. And things have got to change. We've got to be able. I interviewed a guy on the same podcast. He was a MSU, Michigan State professor, and he was so adamant about the need to straighten out these rules and laws of waste collection. Waste collection, that was his big thing, because if we do this in a way, and I know you'll agree with this, if we start having the same rules for everybody, this in turn will incentivize companies, investors. It'll incentivize people to begin to start and grow their companies around recycling factories, around making better systems to collect trash and dispose of trash, and again, without kind of having these. And his whole point was, if you let an investor see where they can make money eventually, they'll put their money where their mouth is. But right now, in this whole world of biodegradable, sustainable, recyclable, eco-friendly, whatever the buzzwords are, nobody really completely understands the big picture yet. And because of that, there's so few companies that are putting big money into that type of, really dialing in the recycling side of things. I don't know. It just drives me crazy, but I know we're onto something here. I
Yeah,
know
I
it.
mean, you look at the commingle recycle. Like I said, there's a lot of wish cycling in every household that you
Yep.
think you
Yep.
can recycle everything. But certain things of color, like PET, colored PET, it's
Yep.
like, okay, when you're designing the product, how sustainable are you? Because we really shouldn't color this product. Maybe use a sustainable layer to bring in your additional colors, or you go with a flexible solution, right?
Yep.
Because the lay
Yep.
flat aspect and the carbon footprint, it's all in the environmental science of, you know, how many tubs of water does it take to make your
That's
package,
correct.
right?
Exactly. No, you're spot on. So let me just kind of deep dive really fast on the screen, or the pictures on the screen, and thank you for allowing me to digress there for a second, AJ. So the first layer here of packaging, if you recall, AJ had mentioned this, especially when it comes to large or larger format spouted pouches. Doesn't have to be for all liquids, but in this case, these ones, the lime putty is actually more of an industrial powder. But what I'm getting at and trying to show people, and AJ brought this up, is that dealing with spouted pouches, large, small, tiny, to replace the shampoo shower bottles and hotels or whatever. A lot of people don't understand that you don't have to run massive volume to get into a spouted pouch. Back to your point, what you had said a couple of times here today, AJ, is that getting away from something rigid, whatever that substrate is, glass, rigid plastic, whatever, into flexible, the most people don't think that their volume is big enough to do it. They assume that they have to have Nestle's or Procter and Gamble style volume. Oh, I could never do that. I've got to buy my stuff from Uline, bottles from Berlin Packaging or something, because no one's going to sell me 1,000 spouted pouches, and that's not true.
Mm.
Absolutely, you can get into that world. Absolutely, you can get into the custom printed. This doesn't have to be a stock bag with a label. And that's really what I
Yeah,
wanted to
you taught me the
emphasize.
flexibility of digital print, and
That
that can
too.
lend itself to spouts.
Well, it really can. You got to be careful, though, to that point. And I'm going to refute what you're saying. You're spot on. Digital printing is great, but digital with liquids doesn't do well. Now, digital with powder, no problem, 100%. So you can have handles and spouts and all that stuff with the powders, but the liquids on digital, the problem with digital and liquids is that a lot of times those seals are not strong enough through a digital process to really ensure that they can hold the liquid, whatever that liquid is. The pouch is going to be beautiful. The printing is going to be spot on. The spout's going to be beautiful. The only thing I always caution people on, it's coming, AJ, don't get me wrong. We're getting there. But liquids in digital is a bit of I try to stay away from it. I try to encourage people to actually make those traditionally. But again, just when you're dealing with small volume. So for what that's worth. Let me move on to one of the other things that we talked about today, and then we'll start to wrap this up because I could talk to my brother here for hours. This is the biodegradable and compostable products that AJ was mentioning. That a few things that are really, really coming on strong here. And there's two things that I want to call attention to is the biodegradable and compostable structures that we've all learned, like the granola you see on the screen. People assume that it's got to be a brown paper, it's got to be earthy and crunchy, and that's fine. We totally can do that. And that's exactly what the granola bags are. But on the flip side, there's also material that can be printed with a window and can be printed from a clear material or non-craft or non-opaque that actually is quite nice for companies that want to be able to see their product. So the point with sharing the biodegradable and compostable is there are companies out there that can get into those types of structures. And what AJ mentioned before, which is really important too, is to emphasize the one thing AJ taught me from the beginning, and I say this respectfully again, AJ, is you have to protect the product first. The packaging comes secondary. What are you packaging, Mr. Customer? And you got to protect the product. And then you make the package around that. Because oftentimes, and I know you'll agree with this, AJ, people say, I got to have a compostable bag. Well, what are you shipping? It's a highly sensitive powder that's microscopic or whatever it is. I'm just making this up. But the point is that if you can't supply the barrier properties to protect that product, the customer can want biodegradable all they want. But if it arrives to their customer as a brick because it didn't have the right barrier properties, then you're in trouble. So the point with this is the technology continues to evolve, AKA like you described with the cannabis space, AJ, but this industry continues to evolve and you can, if done properly, get your customers in a sustainable, biodegradable without necessarily compromising the quality. So let me take us down. We're going to land the plane here, AJ. Like I said, you and I could talk forever, but let me land the plane. One of the things I like to do, especially with guys like you, is ask that final wrap up question of, okay, AJ, if you could wave your magic wand and you could change anything having to do with the packaging world, changing how it's sold, bought, merchandised, marketed, disposed of, whatever. And again, I'm not looking to throw you on the spot. There's no right or wrong answer here, but is there anything that, guys like you and me that have been around here for a long time, we see things that my pet peeve right now is the littering. You heard me go off on my tangent. But is there anything that really bugs you that gets you, raise the hair on the back of your neck to say, this should be different. We have to change this. We should change this. Anything?
I really take exception to people that greenwash their products. They haven't done the due diligence and they start cutting corners and they greenwash the heck out of the product packaging when realistically there was options they could have taken to make it more sustainable. So I really hate seeing those shortcuts and them still trying to say that they're green and sustainable when there's much more that could be done. So don't take credit for it if you went in halfway.
Thank you. Well, I want to expound on that because I think it's what is greenwashing for our listeners?
Greenwashing is when you're telling folks a half truth about the sustainability initiatives that you've performed.
You know what? I didn't know you were going there, and I'm glad you did because that's actually a really big thing that's out there, and a lot of people jump on those bandwagons, and I'm glad you did. That's one of those. You're exactly right, and a lot of people, like you said, take credit and pat themselves on the back and look at us, and what we've done. But in reality, and that goes back to the life cycle analysis and some of this other stuff. But in reality, you have to look at the big picture. I had a blast here, dude. I hope you did too. I wanted to make sure that we got started. I've got another 10 or 11 slides on here. We'll do this again some other time and get to this because, like I said, I try to make sure that I'm not taking all your time. You've been gracious to give us a good 45 minutes to an hour for this. So this has been fun for us. But
It's a great format. I've never really had this platform before, and I look forward to exciting the team about packaging and innovations and options we can provide. So, thank you again for the opportunity, David.
100%. And one of the things on that note, we actually, and I'm just going to ask you this and embarrass you in front of everybody, but I'm going to ask you to be a co creator with us. I've created a new platform called the Specialized Packaging Alliance. This is meant to just get people like us together to share thoughts on specialized packaging, sustainability, recyclability, product specific, industry specific. And the reason why I want to do this, and literally, this is free, there's nothing here to sell, but you have an extensive amount of knowledge that you could share. I do too. And you were one of those people that I thought of, and I'll send you more information about it. But if we could get together, and again, off the record, we'll start to get our thoughts together about who we should invite to this alliance. Who can we get that information from? And then we can put it into this website database so people can learn. Because right now, unless you go to the web and understand what you're looking for, just even to your terminology with greenwashing, a lot of people don't even know what that means. Hell, a lot of people, AJ, don't even really know what sustainable means. They just think it's recyclable, biodegradable. They don't know. And the reason why I wanted to create a very, very generic platform, a community that we can share this information, because really that's how, as resellers, that's how we're going to be able to make change, where we create a place where people can learn, share ideas, and not feel like they're not feel like they're trying to or being sold anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, some people, they say salesy or whatever, but when you're just given information like
Correct.
this and the platform is open,
Correct.
that's where people tend to share more, and you get to the heart of the issue that they're looking to do.
Yeah.
Rather than, you having to uncover it, they're looking to share.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. I'm really glad we did this. AJ with Origin Pack, thank you again for joining us today.